How can you represent and interpret absolute values? Think about this question during the lesson. Stock prices rise and fall during the year. The table shows the overall change in the price of a company's stock from year to year. During which 2 years was the overall change in the stock price the greatest?
It makes sense that positive values show increases and negative values show decreases.
What are you asked to find?
All right, for this question, we're looking for the years that have the greatest change. So if you're unsure how to read this chart, basically they're saying in 2012, there was a change in price of $6, positive $6. In 2013, there was a change in price of negative $34. And you just heard that student say that positive means increase and negative means decrease, which means that in 2012, the price increased by $6, and in 2013, the price dropped by $34, and so forth and so on.
You are asked to find the 2 years with the greatest change in stock price. Which is the greatest number in the table? Which is the least number in the table? The greatest number in the table is 19. The least number in the table is negative 34. The absolute value of a number is its distance from 0 on the number line. Distance is always positive. The absolute value of negative 5 is written as shown below. The absolute value of 5 is written as shown below.
Select an integer on the number line to see its absolute value.
Okay, so this is the main key vocabulary term, and that's absolute value. And they describe that it's the distance from 0, and it's shown with those 2 lines around the number itself. So for 5, the distance from 5 to 0 is 5 units. So the absolute value of 5 is 5. That's how we read this little boxed equation here. The absolute value of 5 is 5. The absolute value of 1 is 1 because it's 1 unit away from 0. The absolute value of negative 3 is 3 because it's 3 units away from 0. The absolute value of negative 4 would be 4 because it's 4 units away from 0, and so forth and so on.
Because absolute value is a distance, and distance is always positive, what is always true about the absolute value of a number? Absolute value is always positive, except for 0. What is the absolute value of 0? Is it positive or negative?
What do you think? Is the absolute value of 0 positive or negative? Is 0 itself positive or negative? Or is it neither? Do you remember from that last practice in problem solving we did where they asked about 0?
The absolute value of 0 is 0, and 0 is neither positive nor negative. To find the 2 years with the greatest change, use absolute values. In 2015, the change in price was $11. What is the absolute value of 11?
Select your answer.
So is the absolute value of 11 negative 11? Is it negative 11 units from 0? Is it 0 away from 0? Is it 1 unit away from 0? Or is it 11 units away from 0? What is the absolute value of 11? Hopefully you said that it is 11.
The absolute values of the changes in the company's stock price each year are shown below. So the 2 years in which the change in stock price was the greatest were 2013 and 2014.
The students in a science class recorded the change in the water level of a local river. During which week did the water level change by the greatest amount? Use absolute values to represent the change in the water level.
Okay, so at this point in time, pause the video and answer these questions in your workbook. This is at the bottom of page 78. So please do this at the bottom of page 78, and then you can unpause the video to check your answers. All right, people, here's the moment of truth. Let's see how you did with this. Try it. Week 1. Here's how they are suggesting you do this. Find the absolute value of each of these numbers. So week 1, the absolute value of negative 7.5. Well, negative 7.5 is 7.5 units from 0. So the absolute value of negative 7.5 is just 7.5. The absolute value of 2 2/10 is 2 2/10. And the absolute value of negative 4 38 is 4 38. So which one of these numbers is the greatest? Well, this one, right? 7.5 was the greatest absolute value. So that represents the greatest change. And that was week 1. So the water level changed by the greatest amount in week 1. And then there was a convince me, which you didn't have to do the convince me, but I'll go over it now just in case you were curious.
Can a lesser number represent a greater change in water level than a greater number? Explain.
Well, we just proved here that this number here represented a greater change, even though it was actually the smallest number in this list. Negative 7.5 would be the furthest to the left on the number line out of all these 3 numbers, yet it was representing the greatest change because it had the greatest absolute value. Let's look at example 3 on page 79.
Negative numbers sometimes represent debts. Yasmin is a business owner. The table shows 3 account balances that represent her gallery's debts. Part A. Which account has the least balance?
Okay, so a debt, that's when you owe money. And since all 3 of these accounts have negative balances, all 3 accounts owe money. All 3 accounts are debts. Which account has the least balance? In other words, which of these numbers is the smallest number? So you can plot the balances on a number line. A, negative 35 and 42 would be just to the left of negative 35. B, negative 50 and 99 is just to the left, almost negative 51. And then C, negative 12 and 75 is between negative 10 and negative 15 here. Which account has the least balance? Left is less, so you're looking for the one that's all the way to the left. Because negative 50 and 99 is further to the left on the number line, that's the one that's the least number, which in this case represents the least balance.
Part B. Which account has the greatest debt?
Okay, so which account has the greatest debt? Which one owes the most money? The absolute value of each balance describes the size of each debt, or the amount of the money that is owed. So they show the absolute values of each account, each number that represents each account, and the one that's the biggest absolute value shows the most debt. $50.99 is the greatest amount of money owed. Account B has the greatest debt. Now you have a try it at the bottom of page 79.
A bank has 2 customers with overdrawn accounts. Which balance is the greater number? Which balance is the lesser amount owed?
So having an overdrawn account, that is something that you never want to have happen to you. So make sure you guys are minding your money well when you get older and you have bank accounts of your own. Some of you may have bank accounts now. So overdrawn means that they took out money from the account more than what they had. So now they owe the bank money. Which of these balances is the greater number? Which balance is the lesser amount owed? So first answer, which of these is the greater number? Which one is furthest to the right? And then answer, which balance is the lesser amount owed? Who owes the least amount of money? Pause the video and try that in your workbook. All right, so the number that is the greater number, the one that's going to be furthest to the right is the negative 19.45, negative $19.45. That's the one that's going to be further to the right. Because if you were to draw a number line, this is a very sad looking number line here, but you get the idea. Negative 19 would be here, then it would be 20, 21, 22, 23, negative 23 would be down this way, and left is less. So this is the number that's greater. Negative 19.45 is the greater number. And that also represents the least amount owed. V. Wong only owes $19.45, where J. Olson owes $23.76. So V. Wong's balance is the lesser amount owed. So again, this question is very similar to one that's on your mid-topic 2 test next week. So make sure you understand this one. If you got it right, celebrate. Good job.